I'd like to welcome everyone to the January 13th meeting of the St. Charles County Council. We will open the meeting with a moment of silence, and then we will be led with the Pledge of Allegiance by Joe Brazil. Please stand. Bow your heads.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazil.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here. The first order of business tonight in this new year is the election of the chairman of the county council, and I'd like to open the floor for nominations for chairman.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Terry Hollander for chair.
Second.
Okay, call for further nominations.
I'd like to nominate Mike Klinghammer for chair.
Second that.
Okay, we have two folks that have been nominated, and there have been 2 seconds. Harold, would you help me through this process?
I think anything that are there further nominations?
Are there further nominations? Seeing none.
Then declare the nominations closed.
Tom, okay, nominations are closed.
You may do it in either of 2 ways. We've never had this before. You can either take the first nomination up as a motion and call for a vote on that motion after discussion. And then if that motion fails, take up the second nomination by motion. Alternatively, you could simply take ask your colleagues to vote on the nominations in order, and then count the votes.
Okay.
And the second might be more efficient.
Okay.
In circumstances.
Yeah.
You want
Okay, so explain that second thing to me again here.
Okay, instead of doing 2 motions in sequence, you can simply ask each member to cast a vote for one or the other nominee.
Okay.
By roll call.
Okay. We will do that.
And could that be verbal or in writing?
It could. There's no rule that governs this. If you want to do it in writing, you may, or you can do it verbally.
It'd be faster to verbally.
So I call the council member, and then they announce which nomination they are to choose.
Yes.
All right. Councilmember Cronin.
Terry Hollander.
Councilmember Brazil.
Mike Klinghammer.
Councilmember Elam.
Mike Klinghammer.
Councilmember Hollander.
I will vote for Mike Klinghammer.
Councilmember Hammond.
Mr. Hollander.
Councilmember Klinghammer.
Mike Klinghammer.
Councilmember White.
Terry Hollander.
For Mike and 2 for Terry.
4 for Mike Klinghammer. Councilmember Klinghammer. 3 for Councilmember Hollander.
Okay. All right. Congratulations. Thank you. Switch spots here.
Thank you.
We'll continue then with the agenda. We'll open the floor to nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Joe Brazil.
Nomination's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Been made and seconded. Any further nominations? Okay, we'll have a voice vote then on Mr. Brazil as vice chair.
Councilmember Cronin?
Abstain.
Councilmember Brazil?
Is it a yes or no, or I don't understand?
I think it's by acclamation.
Yes.
Do we do it by acclamation?
Yes,
You can do it by acclamation if you would like.
All in favor of Joe Brazil being the vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Congratulations, Joe.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next we have public comments. At this time, we will allow members of the audience to come forward and address the council on any county-related issues. At this time, is there anybody that would like to speak during public comment? Okay.
Yes, I'm John Doherty. I live on Prawley Lane, and I want to speak again. I have before in opposition to the proposed road changes on Prawley Lane. I feel that it is primarily a safety issue. The changes are taking out, lowering the hills, and then getting rid of some of the curves on either end of the area that is being proposed. The curves are a natural barrier for speed control, or a natural barrier for speeding. Cars have to slow down to make the curves on either end, which slows the road down on the straight stretch. And we have houses that have driveways that back out onto Prawley Lane. And if cars can drive faster, they will, and it'll be a safety hazard for us. We have to back out onto Prawley Lane. And then secondly, it will require removing some trees, some widening on the roads, putting in a sidewalk, and we'll remove a lot of the trees, which will take away from the aesthetic value of the trees on Prawley Lane, especially in the fall. I think you have seen pictures of that from prior meetings. And then the other thing was, we feel it will encourage pass-through traffic from Highway 94 to Arena Parkway, which will increase traffic more than what we won't get any increased traffic naturally because all the housing lots are pretty well full. There won't be any additional people moving in because Heatherbrook is full and the side streets on Prawley Lane. So for these issues is the reason I'm opposed to it. So, thank you
very much. The subject of the Prawley Road improvements has been opened. Is there anybody here to speak in favor of it? Seeing none, is there any other speakers that speak in opposition to the Prawley Road?
I believe Mr. Tucker presented each of you with the pictures, so you know what we're talking about here. Safety, of course, is the primary issue. However, we feel that this whole situation, much as we admire Mr. Tykowski because he's done good work, we feel this is an unnecessary expenditure of county funds because Prawley Lane really isn't a main thoroughfare to anywhere. We'd like to keep it looking like it does and doing what it does. It only leads into Heatherbrook. It is not a through street. We don't need sidewalks. Joan and I have each walked on that road I've walked over 50 years. I've never caused an accident. I've never seen an accident. I've never been privy to see what all this safety issue is. The only accidents that we're aware of have been on one of the curves, and it's drivers that have gone too fast late at night and have hit a berm or a tree that's around the curve. We're going to make this easier for them if we make it nice and straight. They will go even faster, and that's just unnecessary. So I think it's an unnecessary expenditure. I would really like to see Mr. Tykowski use that money for something that's more needed as far as we're concerned. I don't know what, maybe a parking lot for the Katy Trail or something that would, you know, be practical, because this really is not a practical plan. The trees that would be removed, and you've seen the pictures, we were told that it didn't really matter if it was 20 or 50 or 80. What does it matter? Well, it matters a lot to us because it's going to change our whole beautiful area. And as I say, if it was for the greater good, if we were convinced that there's a reason that this has to be done because such and such and such has to happen. But as far as I'm concerned, this is an engineering project that somebody decided was an improvement and an upgrade. And we simply do not feel that that's the case. The sidewalks would be for like a half a mile, less than a half a mile, about a four block area. Heatherbrook has no sidewalks. There's way more people and way more animals in Heatherbrook, and you have to go around parked cars to walk, so it's much more unsafe than what we have. So we hope that you reconsider, and well, I don't know if you reconsider, if you consider, I don't know where the whole money issue is, but I'm sure there's a better use for the money if it's there to use. So we appreciate the fact that you've listened to us several times here, but we just had to speak one more time. And we have Joan here, another neighbor. She's going to speak for the first time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Joan Reed. I've lived on Prowley Lane for 30 years, and I am a walker also, like Jackie, and never had a problem walking. I have a dog now, and we're fine. If cars come, we get over on the side. And I just want to go on record as being opposed to the widening and tree removal business on Prowley.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. We usually have 3 people speak in favor and 3 in opposition to. Is there anyone here else that would like to speak on another subject? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, good evening. My name is Rich Musseler. I'm an engineer with Musseler Engineering Company, and I'll make brief remarks considering Bill 4040, which is up for first reading this evening. This is a rezoning application to transfer from the A Agricultural District to the RR Single Family Residential District. And I'm joined this evening by the present property owners, Mike and Joni Nichols, and also by the applicants, Sean and Megan Nichols. They're all here with me this evening and can answer any questions should you have any. I brought along this display board to show the council. Mr. and Mrs. Mike Nichols would like to gift part of their 6.79 acre property to their son Sean and his wife Megan. Sean and Megan hope to build their new home on a portion of this property where it's shown right here. Property is presently zoned agricultural. That has a minimum tract size of 5 acres. They only own 6.79 acres, so this property can not be split unless it is first rezoned. If it is transferred to the RR district, the property then can be split as shown on this board. Sean and Megan can then proceed with their building plans for a new home. I would call to the council's attention that your staff, your planning staff, and your Planning and Zoning Commission has studied this question. They have both indicated that the proposed zoning change and subsequent lot split is consistent with the county's future land use plan and is consistent with the surrounding land uses.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does any member of the council have any questions for Rich? No? Is there anybody else that would like to speak either in favor of or opposition to? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other items that anyone from the audience would like to speak about tonight?
Good evening, members of the council. I'm Michelle McBride, St. Charles County Collector, and I am here to request your approval of Bill 4047, which is being introduced for the first time tonight. The short version is This bill allows us in the collector's office to officially accept partial payments for people who are behind on their taxes. It's easier for them to catch up if they're making partial payments instead of having to save up for the entire bill. It also allows people to make advance payments towards the next year. The state collectors have talked a lot about trying to change the due date for taxes because everybody realizes December 31st is not the best time for many people with the Christmas holiday. By allowing our citizens to make advance payments, they can choose what time of the year they'd like to make that big outlay if they feel like they can't hold on to it for themselves till the end of the year. So the advance payment gives somebody who is used to escrowing with a mortgage company the opportunity to continue to pay monthly payments towards their taxes and then shore up at the end of the year, or it gives somebody the chance to choose to pay more in June than they pay in December. So if you have any questions when you get to that bill, I'm here. Thank you.
Very much appreciate it. Is there any other subjects that anyone would like to speak about tonight?
I'll do this quickly.
Okay.
Thank you again. Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I'll make brief comments concerning Bill 4041, which is also a rezoning application before the council for first reading tonight. And this is an application to transfer property from the R1A single-family residential district to the R1C single-family residential district. The applicant is Mr. Bill Litkenhouse. Bill wanted me to be sure and tell you that he was called to a meeting at his church tonight and apologizes for not being here. The subject property in this application are 3 lots that are on Valley Lane. They were platted in 1958, and they're 3 1-acre lots. Each lot is like 200 feet wide and 213 feet deep. These lots all front on Valley Lane. Valley Lane is a county road with a 50-foot wide right-of-way. Mr. Litkenhouse would like to divide each lot in half. He would therefore be creating 6 lots. Each lot would be 100 foot wide and would be 194 feet deep from the right-of-way line of Valley Lane. Therefore, they would be 19,400 square feet in area, and upon those 6 lots, 6 new single-family homes would be constructed. I brought along the preliminary plat for the subdivision. This has been filed with the county. It will be before your Planning and Zoning Commission Wednesday of this week. The R1A single-family district has a minimum lot size of 1 acre that would prohibit the subdivision of these 3 lots into 6. And if you look at Valley Lane throughout its length, you will find that almost every lot that was originally 1 acre has in fact been split into 2. And in fact, I think there are 22 lots along Valley Lane that are of the exact same size as the proposed lot splits. Knowing that, your planning staff and your Planning and Zoning Commission has studied this question. They have found that the proposed zoning change and the subsequent re-subdivision is consistent with the county's future land use plan and also consistent with the Valley Lane neighborhood. Thank you.
We have questions for
Yes, sir.
Rich?
Valley Lane, that's off of what road?
It's off Missouri Route N in Cottleville, but not actually in the corporate limits of Cottleville in St. Charles County unincorporated. These lots will back up to, or they do back up to Francis Howell Central High School.
And they're serviced by a gravity sewer line?
Yes, sir, they are. There's a gravity sewer line along the frontage of these lots. And there's also a potable water main across the street along the frontage. They're fully served by all utilities.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Muscle? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to address the council?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. A.C. Dienoff, county resident. I'd like to first welcome or say Happy New Year to the County Council, and I look forward to a lot of exciting and new endeavors by the county, and hopefully 2014 will bring us a lot of good luck and a lot of good prosperity, a lot different than what happened in the spring with the tornado and unfortunate breakage of the pipe at the County Executive Office building. I'd like to extend my thank you to the County Council staff over to my left for getting out the meeting change and doing such an excellent job in conjunction with the communication department. I think it's of utmost essence that we tell the community where the meetings are going to be, and they did an outstanding job under the circumstances of what happened at the Executive Office building. And I appreciate you getting the message out and going the extra mile with the emails and the posting on the website. I think it was an outstanding job by both the County Council staff and the communication staff. Also, I was wondering if the staff or the county executive can give an update on the Executive Office building and exactly what property damage that we as a county suffered, if there's any historical damage or loss of historical materials or records. And I just think it's only proper that the community be informed of what's happening, especially when the building's going to be closed for the next 20 or 25 days. Any issues that are regarding land-related issues, such as special taxing districts, I don't know if the County Councilor's Office prepares those ordinances, especially in reference to Bill number 4039, which would be the Meadow Brooks Estates Neighborhood Improvement District proposal for a election on the April the 8th of this year. Bill number 4042, Ellerman Oaks Neighborhood Improvement District, which is already created in the last I believe it was the April election, and Bill number 4043 concerning the Rose Hill Neighborhood Improvement District. I'd like to see if staff can use the same thing that they do for zoning issues in the Community Development Department, where they have the utmost of transparency, and in any issues they have actual maps, aerial maps, and land maps that describe where the property is. I have no idea where the Meadowbrooks Estates proposed neighborhood improvement district is, and I would think that other county residents would like to be informed and know if this affects their property or not. Now, through the other legislation, it was easy through those meetings to find out where the Ellerman Oaks Neighborhood Improvement District, those approved by voters, and the Rose Hill Improvement District. But I just think it goes a long way for transparency, and that we open up that every parcel of property in the county that's being discussed, a zoning change or any improvement or a new taxing body, that the public be fully informed and aware. And so I would ask that either the County Councilor's Office or whoever prepared the ordinance for the Neighborhood Improvement District, that you also attach aerial photos so we know where you're talking. And the last item that I'd like to speak about, and I'll be real brief, is I'd like somebody to explain Bill number 4046. It says, shall the County Council should not any longer be notified of any zoning or land uses that are approved by the County Board of Adjustment. And it says in the ordinance that the County Council does not use this information any longer. Well, I think you as elected officials that you should be informed and you should be kept apprised of any changes to land issues or zoning issues that affect our neighborhoods throughout the county. And I think that would just be a bad move. But I'd like to hear from staff, and I believe the county auditor proposed the bill, why we need to take away the Board of Adjustment notifying within 30 days the County Council staff, so you'd be notified as elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else here tonight that would like to speak on a county issue? Seeing none, we'll move on and we'll close the time for public comment, and we'll have an oral report from the county executive.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to yield my time to Ms. Wackham to talk about the damage, at least as much as we know about it up until today. And then also remind you that Craig is here.
Yes, Craig Tukowski
Craig
is here.
Tukowski is here if you have questions about probably.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Well, as you know, the bad weather started Sunday with the snowstorm, and we thought, since we opened the Emergency Operations Center at 5 o'clock that morning to kind of oversee and work with folks, including the homeless agencies, and the community agencies, and the Red Cross, that we were facing the worst of it on Sunday and Monday. But lo and behold, Tuesday was uneventful, and then Wednesday we began having pipe issues. First, at the juvenile center, we had a pipe that had been laid against the back wall freeze up. Luckily, it did virtually no damage. It damaged a janitor's closet, and we were able to get the pipe repaired. In the meantime, in the jail area of the Sheriff's Department, a pipe burst in the ceiling, and that area is largely used for file storage and other storage. But as Mr. Buford's crew was repairing the first pipe, the next one blew next to it, and then finally a third. Because the area that the pipes blew in were within that area that we'd originally set up to be a jail, it was confined largely in an area where the water could be contained. However, it did seep underneath the wall and got into 3 carpet areas, and we have had that cleaned up and sanitized. In the meantime, while that was going on, we had snow and ice come off the upper roof at the family arena and hit a self-contained area between gates 3 and 4. The snow itself, in a sense, didn't do the damage. It was the impact of the snow. And so we were having a structural engineer look at that area. We have it shored up, and we also have it walled off against any public use. It contains 2 bathrooms, some concourse area, and some concession stand area. It does not affect our ability to use the family arena, and it's walled off over there. So we should have a report complete on that, and we'll get that around to you when we know the extent of the damage there. Wednesday night, then, about 5:15, we were in the executive office building when the fire alarms went off, and Jennifer and I went out in the hall where we met Harold, and Colleen was there, and Rosemary, and at first we weren't quite sure what was going on. But what had happened is that condensation apparently had been building up for some time in the fire suppression system. And while the fire suppression system doesn't have water in it continuously, there's a damper that opens up under certain circumstances. Dave knows all this, I know. And the condensation had built up in a bleeder pipe that they used to bleed off the condensation. And in the freezing weather, and then as the temperatures rose, expansion occurred, and it snapped the pipe. And so that sent a message down the system to open the dampers to water. And basically, the broadcast studio on the 3rd floor behind the council chamber, and the area where you keep your flat screen TV, and the hallway behind the council chamber became one massive shower stall. And we had hundreds of gallons of water pouring down through there. It then proceeded down and spread out across the ceilings into the counselor's office below, where it entered about 55 to 60% of the offices in fairly large quantities of water. And then apparently the drain tile system worked to some extent, and it began draining some of it off to the outside, and it did also invade Donna's area pretty thoroughly as well. So the fire department responded. We figured out where everything was while all the on-call folks were en route. Got the electrical turned off and notified the insurance company, and they sent in a disaster recovery company immediately that night. They were there within an hour. And we understand we were their 100th call of the day at that location. But they have been working with us, as is the insurance company, to basically remove all the damaged items. The building basically, because of the fact that the county councilor's office had to be moved into the rotunda while we deal with water damage, there's no way to bring the public into that area. There's also continuously blowers in there trying to mitigate any air or harmful mold that would occur, because even though there's a number of things that will be replacing, carpeting, and ceiling tiles, various insulation, etc. There's, it's just not an appropriate place to have the public right now. We should have a further report on that, very soon. In fact, the air experts are there tonight doing calculations. So basically, I would end it with a thank you to each of you, because the county councilor's office is only operating right now because each of you as councilmen agreed to give up your office in the building for the next couple of weeks while we do this, so that they have some place to operate out of. And we successfully moved them all down on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and this morning, so that we can thoroughly strip out the council's office.
Thank you for the report. Water damage is never fun. It's always messy to clean up, and fortunately, it doesn't sound like any real structural damage occurred. It's more cosmetic issues and more of an inconvenience for our staff. So thank you for the report. Any questions from the council? Please.
I just had one comment. In the future, I think we ought to look into when we have severe cold like that we not cut back the heat in the buildings to conserve energy. I think it would help reduce the chance of freezing pipes when we've got weather that's that cold.
Yeah, we're back to the old set points. We changed last summer on the air conditioning to putting them back to the cooler temperatures during the summer, and we've gone back to the old set points for the winter temperatures as well. So that was not a part of it. One thing that we are going to look at, though, is whether or not we need to alter the fire suppression system so that it requires not only the first indicator, but also whether or not it should sniff smoke. And we're going to also look at what the cost would be to go into a dry fire suppression system where the records are in the buildings.
Thank you. Mike?
Have you looked at moving those heating and air conditioning units in the family arena? When we have to replace 2 of those, right? Where snow and ice that fell on top of those.
One was crushed entirely, and the other one was damaged.
Are they looking at, when they replace these, at moving them at least close to the building, or building some sort of a structure to break that up when it's falling? Because I know we had that problem before in years past, where it falls off the top of the building, off those top ones, and it comes straight down because of the weight of it. We destroy them on a fairly regular basis.
Well, before the tornado, I don't know that we had destroyed any, but...
It was my understanding in talking to the folks at the building that they'd had that happen in the past, where it had done damage to them in the past that had to be done. Well, we talked about it when we did the tour with the 4 of us who did that tour. It came up in that tour before, back in the spring, where we looked at things coming off of there, where if we could move those AC units back at least closer to the building, or put a structure over it where if it falls off, it breaks that up, so it doesn't come down in one big chunk, it gets broken up along the way. I was just curious if we could look at doing that when we're replacing these units.
Well, we certainly will.
If that happened in the past, it was before 2004. But it very well could have checked.
Like the new roof systems, I know that roof's aging on that facility, so when you install the new roof systems, they have snow ice shields on them to break the snow and ice up. I even think that's code now, but when we built that, that wasn't real popular to do. And that would break the ice. If anything with a slope over 312, I think, is required on something like that. So
presentation works.
Did you have anything else?
Anything else on the water and snow damage? Thank you. Great.
Good evening. Would you like me to give a general description of the project, or just answer questions, or how would you like to proceed?
Why don't we go ahead and have a general description of it first, kind of lay out the work that's being proposed, and if you would follow that with the reasoning behind why these improvements are being recommended.
Well, generally what this is really is nothing more than a modernization of the roadway. If you drive on Prowley Lane coming in off of 94, you've got an improved section with sidewalks, curb and gutter, storm sewers. If you come on Prowley Lane from the Arena Parkway, you've got a developed subdivision with curb and gutter, storm sewers. There's a 2,100 feet stretch in between those that really is just an old-fashioned country roadway. Some of the lanes are only 10 foot wide, which in certain areas of it, nobody builds a road with 10 foot wide lanes anymore. You've got no storm sewers, very few storm sewers, if any, no curb and gutter, so you've got open ditches on the edge of the road. You heard the residents talk about the hills and the curves that are there. And really, it's just trying to take a road that, that doesn't fit the area and bringing it up to something that does fit. When you do that, you take away a lot of problems. You take away the issue with cars dropping off the edge of the road, driving into the ditches. You have areas where there's a private gravel road that comes off of it where during heavy storms, the gravel gets washed out onto Prowley Lane, which isn't good for anybody that's using the roadway. And then the plan is also to add a sidewalk. It will tie into the sidewalk that runs down Prowley Road from basically the intersection with Coonsey out to Highway 94, up towards the movie theater and some of the stuff that's up that way. So that's really what we're accomplishing here. It's not a widening project. It's not an expansion project. The only widening that's being done is to bring these 10-foot lanes up to the 12-foot standard. Then there'll be curb and gutter added to that. So really you're talking about this much of a widening of the roadway, and that's to allow us to catch the storm water, put it into storm sewers, and get it into the ditches rather than, or into the, the creeks and things, rather than running in ditches along the edge of the road. There will be, trees come down as part of it. We counted about 400 trees that we know, from the trees that are out there, we counted 400 that are within the survey limits. There's probably another 50 in the area. Of those 450, 79 are going, what it looks like right now, 79 will be coming out. So basically out of every 50 trees, 41 will stay and 9 will have to come out. And we're talking about everything from little 2-inch saplings, up to the big veteran or old growth that's been out there. Most of that tree removal is done on the one corner where the gentleman that lives on that corner that showed up at our public meeting told us that he had to build a berm in his front yard because he was tired of cars leaving the roadway, coming into his front yard and approaching the front of his house. So he was very happy to see that we were going to, straighten that a little bit so that that issue, should hopefully go away. So those are just kind of the benefits that come along with bringing it up to the more modern standard.
Okay. Joe, I'll let you go first.
Craig, what's the percentage of people who live in that 2,100 foot? How many of them want it,
I don't remember the specific numbers, but it was about 50-50, I think, that showed up at the public meeting. I can't remember if it was 16 people or 25 people or what it was. We do have that information at the office, but it was, I think, 50-50, very close to that.
Okay, and then the next question is, you look at subdivisions like the older subdivisions like Ladue and Wildwood and the nice subdivisions, wealthier subdivisions. They don't ever seem to take their roads and plow them down like that, put curb and gutter. They leave the trees, they leave the country feel. And I think that, I'm trying to understand the bigger picture here because I agree with what they're saying. I agree that I think you're going to change the whole landscape of the community of the area, and I certainly wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to remove any trees from my neighborhood. So I'm trying to figure out what, because if you're doing it for the better good, then that means there's going to be more traffic going through there.
I don't think that when you take a little piece of a road that's in the middle of a road that's already there, that what we do there is going to draw anybody more to it. I mean, people that use that road use it, the way it is now. They'll use it just the same when it gets better.
Okay, with that being said, then it's really just going to affect the people who live on the road.
It's going to affect everybody that uses the road.
Yeah, so is there going to be an ordinance on this particular project for funding where the council can choose to vote it down or not vote it down?
Well, I'll let the legal folks answer that. You can do whatever you want. It's already been approved. It's in the tip that you've approved each year over the last 2 or 3 years. You're certainly able to do any legislation you want at any point in time, I would think.
It was my understanding when we talked about this before, because we asked this question.
There is an upcoming vote, and that is a vote to approve the construction of the project by the whoever the contractor would be. So you will have an opportunity to vote on it.
Well, that would be the bid, but the approval to start the design work, we've spent quite a bit of money on the design already. That has all been approved by ordinance through the tip that you vote on each year.
Because I know when this came up, we had that conversation and said, because I remember specifically we asked, can we strip Crowley Lane out of this bill? And we were told at the time, I don't remember being told that there was quite a bit of money that's been spent so far on Crowley Lane, but I remember being told at the time that that was going to come up and we could thumbs up, thumbs down on that particular project. Because if I remember right, it's $640,000, right?
Yes, I mean, that's generally, we got about $490,000 in federal funds for a total estimated cost of $720 with the design and the right-of-way and other things. Like Don said, you still have to approve the construction of it. That could, you would have to approve the bid, so that could certainly be stopped. I think I'm not saying that this thing, has to keep going forward if you choose otherwise.
Plus, if I remember correctly, this design is being done.
Yeah, the design is done in-house. Really, the only expense we've had, we had to have surveyors come out and survey the adjoining properties so that we knew what we were faced with.
Joe, do you guys have any other questions?
The other thing we could do, we could look at the plan and modify it in a way that would accommodate everybody when the time comes.
John, this is your district.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been there?
I've driven it several times, and I see a couple areas that could be modified and made safer without taking out all the trees.
I have to confess, I'm not sure how many houses are in the subdivision, Heatherton or Heatherbrook that's on the...
I have no idea. That's just...
Yeah. Craig, could you give us some approximation of the percentage of trees that are already in our right-of-way that would come down?
Yes, I did have that. Let's see. I know I had that information. Now it's going to be a matter of just being able to find it real quick here. There's 18 trees in the right-of-way that are being removed and 61 beyond the right-of-way. So, I don't know, maybe a fourth or so of the trees are in the right-of-way, actually. And that's where all the improvements are taking place, in the right-of-way. The sidewalk, everything is fitting in the existing right-of-way that's out there. We don't, other than on the curve, where we're going to realign that curve a little bit, we don't have to take right-of-way from anybody to do this.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a couple of comments? Please, Don, go ahead. First of all, I want to apologize if council member feels a little misled by my previous comments the other week. The reason that I thought it was still yet to be determined on the TIP was that it was approved on a previous TIP. I knew it wasn't in this year's grouping.
Not a new project. It's
been approved 2 years ago, I suppose it was.
Yep.
That's number one. I guess I'd also like to point out, though, that, and I think this is already obvious to all the members of the council, almost every road project we do has two constituencies involved. One is the traveling public, and the other are the folks that live alongside those thoroughfares. And as I look at the council tonight, I can almost pick a project, for at least one project, for every council member who's encountered this same thing. Councilmember Cronin there's a project in his district that goes from Bryan up to Highway P. Councilmember Brazil has Dwell Road, which had a number of residents there that were upset by that. Councilmember Klinghammer, when he was at the City of St. Charles, had an Elm Street project there that was controversial in terms of the residents alongside the road. Councilmember Elam and White are well versed with Cox Hill Road and Pittman Hill Road. Whenever you have road projects, The adjoining property owners are generally not happy about it. And the people that you don't hear from are the people that are going to use the road every day to travel back and forth. And generally speaking, those people happen to be in favor of it. So this is not an unusual situation. I sympathize with the people involved. My property where I live is adjacent to a road board project, and it impacted our ability to use that particular piece of property, but that's the way life is. You can't just ignore all of these old country barn to market roads that we now call collector roads. You have to do something with them to make them as safe as possible. Maybe there's a higher priority out there, I don't know, but this is not an unusual situation, and I hope the council takes that into consideration. If you decide you don't want to go with this project, that's entirely up to you. Thank you.
I think what I would like to see happen is if we could go flag those trees that would be removed, so these folks would have an idea of which trees you're talking about, and then we would also have an understanding of, you know, which trees are coming out. I think that would at least give us an idea of how that's going to affect the landscape.
We could certainly do that. You know, we could tie a ribbon or something around them. We'd have to hope that you'd get out there pretty quick, because I'm not sure how long they would stay. I'd rather not paint big X's on them or anything like that, but, you know, wrap a ribbon on them or something. We could certainly do that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Along that kind of question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I don't understand. You say it's all being done within the right-of-way, but there's only 19 trees in the right-of-way. Why do we need to take the rest for slopes and...
For sloping, one of the other improvements we're making, there's a property that floods quite frequently because it sits down in a hole. All the water from the road and everything comes off on that. So we're going to be raising that portion of the road up a little bit, installing storm sewers, and in doing that, of course, you have to run your slopes out to tie back in, and that's generally where most of the trees are being impacted, is by our slopes where we tie back in.
So we will be working outside of the right-of-way?
We will need to get temporary easements from folks, yes, okay. but nothing permanent.
Well, you said that earlier. It made it sound like all of the project was within the existing.
The permanent improvements will be within the right-of-way, yes.
The slopes are not.
Correct. Correct.
I consider that part of the roadway myself, but that's fine. If you could also let us know how much traffic is actually on that road. I've been out there on 2 different occasions, and I'll bet it was during the middle of the day, but there was no one there. So
yeah, we're not claiming, and that's the thing. We're not trying to make this into an expressway. We're trying to take the existing road that's there and make it better for those that use it. We're not trying to draw additional traffic to it. The speed limit is not going to change. I think the sheriff will attest that people are going to drive on a road whatever speed they want to, regardless of what the road is. I mean, you know, people just drive whatever speed they feel like they can drive. So there's no intention to speed traffic up. There's no intention to draw traffic to it. It's just to make it better, more usable, you know, pedestrian friendly. We don't want to condone people out walking on our roads. I think you would understand that that's not a good situation for motorists or pedestrians either way. So if we can provide a sidewalk for them, you know, we try to do that now.
Any other comments from the council at this moment? So this will still come back before us in the form of an ordinance to approve the contract.
Well, I would suggest if there is interest in stopping the project, that something official come down, because we don't want to keep spending money on it and then not, you know, be in a position to build it when the time comes. So I think it would be better to, you know, to nip it.
Council's discretion at this moment. Then, do we want other information? Are we comfortable making a decision on this project now?
I mean, we can certainly provide you plans of what we've got so far. They're still, I'd say, preliminary, probably 60 to 70% complete, but they are enough to where you can see what's taking place out there. So that's another option that we can provide those.
Yes, I like the suggestion of the marking of the trees, and then at a certain point in time, I'd like to have a work session on it so we can all set up the plans and discuss them.
Okay. We have some very dedicated homeowners here that have, I know they've been talking to you, and they've come to multiple meetings. Let's try to get this trees marked relatively soon so that, I know, who knows if we're going to get more snow or not. Well, let's try to get it fairly soon so we can get that work session scheduled and move on with it. Either we're going forward with it or we'll put the brakes on it.
We'll get them marked, and then we'll shoot you an email or shoot Don an email, let you know that it's done, so that you'll, if you want the opportunity to go out and look at it, you'll be able to do so then.
I'm not sure that we're going to make it by the next meeting, but probably that first one in February is what I think would be a reasonable goal. Okay.
We can do that.
All right. Anything else from anybody? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Mr. Allen, did you have anything else from? Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there items that people would like to remove from the consent agenda for separate discussion?
I have questions about the information systems bid for Mr. Anthony.
Okay.
I can make a motion to remove that consent agenda.
Second. Made and seconded. All in favor of removing information systems from the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that item has been removed. Anything else on the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Okay. Been made.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor of approving the remainder of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Cronin, let's talk about the information system.
I guess this might be questions for Simon and Wayne. It's not in this booklet because we don't have the full packet in this book, but I took notes and brought them to the meeting. There was another company that was the low bidder and did meet specifications, okay, according to the packet information. And that low, while this recommended bid is for $57,000, that low bid was for $33,000. And I did see the you folks had a lot of correspondence back and forth with the companies and with this citizen serve, thinking that there would be a better system. But there was a sentence that I didn't understand that was in the notes, and it said that the citizen serve system included services that were not deemed absolutely necessary. So my question to you guys is, we had another bidder that was $24,000 cheaper. And then this bidder, the higher price bidder, was selected, but there was footnotes that said that this higher bid includes services that were not deemed absolutely necessary. And that's my question. Would you expand on that and tell me why you think it's prudent if we spend an extra 24 grand with somebody that's not the low bidder? Okay.
There can be vendors that meet the specifications but don't meet it in a way that satisfies all the constituents in the bid, right? So we've had a team that looked at all the vendors, and even though a vendor checks a box that says they can do it, the way they actually do it doesn't match the way, or is not as effective as the way another vendor might do it. So even though vendors meet specifications, they're not equal. Does that make sense?
Well, if that was the case, then then we could either meet specifications or doesn't meet specifications. To me, it's kind of like being pregnant or not being pregnant. Okay, I mean, I don't know how to say it. And when I see stuff, I don't understand the services where it says included services that were not deemed absolutely necessary.
Sure.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so the specification one aside, the services that were not necessary, I think the bid was actually higher than the 57, and there was stuff stripped out of the response, the vendor response, that said we don't need those services. So it actually came down to the 57.
We don't have the privilege of having that information tonight, but the sheets that I saw came from the bid. The original bid was for 57. I didn't see a high bid and something stripped down. I saw the list of all the vendors with the prices, and it was either met specifications or didn't meet specifications.
Okay.
And then I saw that sentence, and I don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem spending more money.
Sure.
If it's a better system that does something. But
Sure.
when I see the clause in there that says, or a statement, I'm assuming from somebody in purchasing, or maybe, I think it was actually a statement might have been from Wayne, that says, included service that were not deemed absolutely necessary. I wonder if we're spending more money for stuff that we don't need.
Okay. Councilman, if I may address it for a moment, I think that was a remark Mr. Anthony made in this, and I think the point he was trying to make is because there were part of the quoted amount of $57.5 involves some services that didn't need that we could meet budget. So they were saying there were some things out of this $57.5 that could be shaved off. Is the remark that Mr. Anthony was, and he's certainly here, so he can contradict me if I misread it. But that was what I understood when I saw that. The second thing is that, if I remember correctly, this was actually a request for qualifications, and you all negotiated with although there was price asked for from these qualifiers, you all did not look at any price until you had gone through the various qualifications and abilities and picked the top one. So you might explain a little bit about that process to the council.
I would love to explain that, but to be honest, I haven't been as close to this one as I have the other one, so I can't comment on exactly the process around that.
I'm trying to remember the question now that I said, okay, I can answer that one. What was?
Wayne, the low bidder was $33,000, and it was a company called MyGov, which I'm sure has some type of government software. And then the high bidder was for $57,000.
Yeah.
Approved, the bidder that we're recommending is $57,000. So A is, why are we spending the $24,000 more money? Okay, and B is, the higher price software obviously includes services that were not deemed absolutely necessary. That was a statement that I gleaned out of the paper. So I know we don't have the privilege of having that tonight, but what I saw wasn't a request for qualifications proposal. What I saw was a bid. Okay. So
let me address your last question first and go forward. What we ended up, I'm going to have to check and report back to you whether the $57,000 is the result of some subtractions we've already made or not. One of the things that we did in evaluating the bid was that there were some items that we had identified in the specs that we did not really need. For instance, this particular vendor had $20,000 listed as a cost to transfer our current data from Munis into Citizen Serve. We decided that was not a good situation. The IS department felt that data, that software has a lot of bad information in it. There's multiple uses of fields depending upon what division or department that you're in, and so the transfer of that would be very difficult and probably end up corrupting the new system as far as getting reports and data. So we decided that was one item that we did not need, and we didn't need to expend that $20,000, and we would operate our old Munis system for the 5 years that it has data on it that would still remain in place, and we would start up with a new software system from here forward. We'd still be able to go back and finish records in the old system and just basically not combine them into one and end up with a mess. And the result of that discussion between IS and the Community Development Department, we decided we needed to cut that cost out of the system. And so that was a reduction. And again, I'm not certain, and I'll have to find out for you before next time and report back to you, if that subtraction has already been taken out and we're remaining with the 57, or if the 20,000 still comes out of the 57 that we reported to you.
If the 20,000 comes out of the 50, I didn't see a reduction. There was no documentation. The 20,000 comes off. So we're talking 37 versus 33.
Yeah.
That's not a big deal. But the other thing it didn't say in the bid specifications is what is the annual maintenance cost? And we all know these software companies, or especially the stuff the county buys, they get you on the price for the product, and then they get you every year thereafter. So we're not really bidding on a $50,000 expenditure. We're bidding on a $200,000 expenditure over the next 5 years. So I would like to know what the other vendors offered in terms of annual maintenance and software licenses.
Well, let me, and again, my memory is that we've already subtracted the 20,000, but I'm going to verify that for you. I think the 57 is the result of already subtracting some of those items, but we'll need to report back. As far as this particular piece of software, there were this one and probably 2 others that were in the $150,000 range or less. The other vendors, almost 5 or about 5 of them, were probably in the neighborhood of $250,000 all the way up to about $600,000 for the software. The big difference in cost is whether you own it or whether you lease it. We decided to go with leasing the software, and so consequently, and basically, we still own our data. If we ever want our data back, we can, well, in fact, we're going to download it every month, or I don't know what we finally decided, but we're going to download our data. So we always have that. So if we get unhappy with this vendor, we can go to another vendor and transfer our data over and go our merry way. One of the things that this provider does, as well as a couple of the other ones, is they concentrate on providing service to you. If you need a report written, they'll write the report for you. If you have a problem, they fix it. We don't have to do that. It's their labor. And one of the things that we checked on when we did some of our interviews with some of the clients that they indicated they had was checking on just how good their service really was. Particularly in the case of Citizen Serve, everybody reported back how quickly they responded to an issue and got things resolved. And basically, they would show you how to write a report if you wanted to do it, but they're basically saying, I don't know why you'd want to do that, because all you have to do is tell us what kind of report you want and we'll write it for you and run it. And so they really concentrate on service. The big difference between CitizenServe and MyGov, I think, is the ease of use of the software, how it's presented on the screen for the user to use. And one of the things we're attempting to do is not just end up with a piece of software that county staff uses, but ultimately people in the public can get on the website, they can apply for permits, they can see what status they're at in the permitting process or the zoning process or whatever process, trying to make it very transparent to the public what's going on with a particular case, whether it's code enforcement or anything. And so one of the things we were looking for is a vendor that would be able to provide that type of interface with the public and allow them to do those types of things.
Does MyGov have that ability?
Yes, they do. But it is not as robust, or as, in our opinion, it's not as robust or easy to use as what CitizenServe provides. CitizenServe is just a lot more robust, and probably something, when I look at the county buying something, I think that we're going to have it for a long period of time, or at least I want to try to make a decision based upon the fact that we're probably going to use it for a long period of time, and we need to buy the best product that will serve us over a good number of years. And I think we think that CitizenServe has a a software that seems that it could achieve that. Oh, I should add, I'm sorry. There is an annual fee, and yeah, 31. Okay, I wanted to make sure that you knew that there would be an annual license fee. I think it was in that same vicinity, 25, 28, 30,000.
And then any documentation fees.
Okay. You want some more information?
I want to make a point of a little bit larger general discussion, okay? I'm not a big fan of leasing anything, and I like doing things in-house. It's always worked for me in my life. For instance, the highway department did a fantastic job on the roads. We don't lease those trucks. We don't contract those services out. Has there ever been, I see these software bills and these licensing fees for all the different departments of the county that come in, they're a lot of money. Has there ever been given any thought about having our own, for what these software companies are charging us? We could hire computer programmers, we could hire coders, we could do a lot of stuff. And Simon, this is probably more to your technological things, guys, but what would it take for to have the county, your department established enough that where they could actually come up with coded programs that would work for a department like Wayne's?
Before he answers, I'd just like to say that's exactly what we have now. It's a piece of crap software. I'll try to be very tactful. I think that was I am not happy with what we've got. It is, we don't have any programmers that can adjust or correct a program anymore within it. Trying to write a report, you have to do some kind of a crystal report, find somebody in county government that can do it. They don't exist. I used to believe, like you, the best thing that we could do was own our own stuff and control it and manage it and whatnot. I have shifted to the other side.
Our current IS director is doing an amazing job, and he has a huge hill to go up. And he has spent the entire first year as his staff doing a very introspective review of what they need to do both in-house and what they need to cooperate with the departments to do out of the house in order to serve the county departments. And they have kept their focus on the product and purely on the product. And there has not, I mean, I'm sure if we could give him another $2 million in staff, he'd love to do it all in-house. But through a combination of looking at the budget and looking at what can be done, he has worked really diligently to come up with a plan for those things which he can best use his staff to serve in-house and to move forward, and those which, at least for the time being, we can get a better product by buying it on the street. So, well, in a sense, I don't think, at least I know I don't disagree with you, it's always better to do it in-house. Part of the issue is money and what we can afford to do, because that takes a lot of expertise. And I don't know whether you want to speak further.
Yeah, so just a quick comment on that. We had the same discussion around the election iPad system, where we actually evaluated whether it would be cheaper for us just to write the application ourselves and not pay the third party at that time to buy the software from them. We have no programmers on our staff, and like Joanne says, unless we want to make writing code, writing programs a competency within St. Charles County, which I don't agree with, because it's hard to keep the IT people in government as opposed to fleeing over across the river or to private industry. They get paid a lot more over there. So it's hard to keep talent over here. And you need to write a lot of software for it to become effective. You can't just have a programmer sit and write only Wayne stuff. You need, and in order to write Wayne stuff, you actually have to get good at write community development and planning and zoning. And I think the money is better spent going to an outside vendor who services multiple county, local governments and rent us the application, so we don't have to buy the application, buy the servers, take up the data center space and run it in-house. So there's other costs than just buying the software. There's also costs in running the software. there's a shift going on in the industry now between on-premise software and software as a service, where people just rent the software. It's kind of like the Google service, right? We don't want to run email servers in our own house, even though we could tweak it as much as we could. We just go to Google and get our mail. The same way, companies are shifting to a software as a service model. You let the vendor take care of all the upgrades on the back end. You let them worry about the hardware that they run in and the data centers to cool all that stuff and power all that stuff. If our data centers get bigger, we have disaster recovery issues to worry about. Right? We need a bigger disaster recovery site. So you're not only expanding your data center space, you also expand your backup space. So there's all these hidden costs in owning your own software that you get the benefit of when you actually lease it.
I didn't see anything just about any storage. They're going to store all Wayne's information too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that wasn't anything.
Yeah.
Mr. Cronin, do you have any other comments?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Elam, first.
All right. First of all, it kind of sounds like where you're going, but I was in the middle of it saying it's a right way, a wrong way, and a military way, which is probably the right way, but it's the longest damn way around that you can go to get there. Sorry, but that's pretty much what it was. It sounds like that's the difference between these two vendors. They're both going to get us to where we want to go. One's going to get us there a lot faster than the other one, and navigation is everything. If you've ever been to a website where you can't find anything, and you're clicking on everything, it's the most frustrating thing in the world. I hate our county website. Colleen and I have had multiple discussions since I walked in here about this website, because anytime I would have a question, where's this? I would always get the answer, it's on the county website. We have the same thing in Charter. I have an internal website. I ask this question, where is this? It's on C Media. The answers of the universe are on C Media. I'm completely sure that it's there. I just can't find it. Navigation is everything. Charter made a bid today for $61 billion to go by Time Warner. We lease our software. It's a big deal. You don't want to get into writing your own software and writing your own code. It's hard to hire those people. They're very expensive. And keeping them is really much harder than doing that. As long as you can assure me that this software is going to get us out of the hell that we're sitting in right now and looking at that website and talking to Colleen, I understand what Joanne's talking about from where you live. And I don't know how you still have hair and not pulled it out from dealing with this, but it sounds like we basically have one forward-facing website that is sort of the portal, if you will, to get to all the other department websites. And every department has their own website right now. And then you have to go 3 ways to Sunday to find information. So as long as you can assure me that this gets us to where we really want to go, and the difference between the 33 and the 57 is well worth it in terms of the end product, then I have full faith and confidence in you that that's true. Is that what you're basically telling us?
This is just community development software.
Yes, this is community development software, but it also has this web presence. And so we are also working on the website as a separate project. But this community development software has its own public-facing presence. So we will link those two together, and we are going to do everything with Colleen's help and Jennifer's help to make all the information harder to find. But that's a whole separate project that we're also working on this year.
So this is helping.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have one short comment. I've gone through these changes with software many times over the year, and at least once with Wayne, and I have a lot of confidence if Wayne says this one's going to work better, and by leasing it, I agree with him, because one of the things, the first thing happens when you buy software, it's obsolete in a year or two, where if you're leasing it, to keep it updated on a regular basis.
Thank you. Jennifer.
I think 2 quick items. One, the project kickoff for the website is actually tomorrow. We're all very, very excited about starting the project. Second is I think a lot of the comments from tonight I'm taking back with me, because I think that some of these are solved or can be solved with how we present the information to you in the paperwork. Because you'll notice those forms that we've got that you've been using now for about the last 3 months, we've been pretty much just test driving and taking notes for as many changes and amendments that we need to make. The thing that I've noticed over the last 2 months in how we have the paperwork that we presented to you on the website, and there's one other project that I'm thinking of, is it doesn't work well for any type of RFQ process. And it's not working well on a lot of these software projects because it's not giving you enough of the detail in the way that we're presenting it to you in terms of the time frame of when we are opening up all of the bid packets, having separate sealed price packets, going through a presentation with multiple vendors, and then selecting one and negotiating on price. It's not working well for what we're trying to present to you then on the back end. So I will modify the paperwork so that we've got two separate sets going, one that's for a straight bid, one that's not, so that you'll have that information better presented in the future. And if you have any direct comments as to things you want to see, let me know, send me an email, and I plan to work on those in the next month or so.
I'm very excited to hear you say that. That's one of the frustrations that I've faced over the last couple of years now is trying to learn the county system is very difficult. If we had just a cover sheet that said, here's the gist of what we're doing, and this is the mechanics to get it done. I looked at this, I thought that it was a request for proposals, and Joanne, you said it was a request for qualifications. When I look at the information, I look at it in two different ways. I focus a lot more, like Joe does, on price when it's a request for proposals. Then I do very closely look at it and say, did they meet it? Are we being fair in how we're purchasing goods and services, and making sure that we didn't draw it so that just one company can win the proposal. Totally different than looking for a request for qualifications. And I'm still not sure which one we did on this, because normally requests for qualifications wouldn't have pricing associated with it. So I'm a little confused on what we really did with this particular one.
Steve said it says RFP, and unfortunately we call virtually everything RFP in our system. Right. They all go out that way. But if you look at community development software overview, you'll see it wasn't until they started this by putting it on the posting out on 6/25. It wasn't until 9/5/13 that the financial information was shared with staff. Up till then, it was purely an evaluation of qualifications.
And I can just reaffirm that we did not take the price of what the vendors were proposing for their services until the very last element of this whole evaluation process. And that's also when we decided that we really don't need to do this and that, and subtracted those from what they were proposing for a price.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crown.
This is more of a comment to Jennifer, but I tell you another thing, if we're going to redo this, will help a lot. Even for the request for qualifications, a lot of times I have questions. And I'll tell you a good example is what we're looking at the board right now. On the engineering services contract for Motherhead Road, USR was picked over several other engineering companies, including Bax, okay, being one. But then on another project on Heberman Road, HR Green was picked over USR, okay? So that to me, I'm thinking, well, all these engineering companies, they must think USR is the best one. But then for this other project, HR Green looks like they're, according to the recommendations, they're better. So a little footnote to why one would be considered better than the other. Bax Engineering's been around for a long time, I think, and we've proved them on other projects tonight. So, I didn't know why they were considered inferior on USR Motherhead to USR on that Motherhead Road, and why HR Green was considered better than USR on the Heberman Road project. So, some comments to that effect would be helpful, because that stuff doesn't seem too logical to me.
Mr. Chairman, I'd answer that in part, Mr. Cronin, by saying that different elements of that engineering project might be better reflected in one engineering firm in terms of experience than what another firm is. You're not gauging at that point the overall qualifications of an engineering firm. You gear it towards a project, and if it's got a great
I think, Mr. Kramer, what we're talking about is some sort of communication, a cover sheet or whatever, that comes back and says this firm was selected for this project for the following reasons. We've had experience with them. They've done, it might be a continuation of another another project on that same road and they already have the information, whatever the reason that one was selected, overlooked.
I think you'll find on Craig Tatowski's memos, it's usually, we've always are now doing that bid memo, followed by a memo from finance, followed by the department's memo. Craig's in general give that exact description. It's not a comparison between one bid and the other bid, because the time in which they're processing them, he can't do all of that within the time frames because something is moving along in the process and it's already left his desk. But I think in both of those cases, Craig has given some comments about either of the two engineering firms and why they were selected. But you do, right now, it is 3 pages into your packet on each particular bid project.
Okay. Turning on the particular item that we pulled from the consent agenda, do you want to wait for other information? Do you want to vote on it tonight? What's your pleasure?
I would prefer having more information, but I don't know the timeliness of this, how bad Wayne needs it. I trust you, Wayne. I think if you think it's necessary, we can do it. At the same token, the information is a little bit incomplete that we've been presented, so I'll leave that gentleman's decision.
What I can tell you is that we probably started this evaluation effort maybe 1.5 years ago. We have, let me put it this way. I think I made a big mistake in agreeing to the piece of software we purchased 5 years ago. And I wanted to make sure we did not make the same mistakes again. And so we have gone through a very laborious, thorough research of all of these firms and the types of software that is out there, and also partnered with the IS department to ensure that what we were going and the path we were going down was going to be something that they could subscribe to, and that they were fully comfortable in the piece of software and how it would be able to integrate with the rest of the things that we have done. The evaluation of the vendors, while on one hand it was very subjective, but we also had a very objective process in trying to score probably on 100 or 200 different criteria points, where they fell. And again, I think in the end of analysis, I think that, yeah, MyGov could probably do the work. They could probably do it. It just wouldn't be as easy to use and as robust, and we're concerned about the interface with the public with that piece of software. And so I think after going through this whole process, in fact, I can tell you that some of the staff initially were very pro MyGov until they started getting exposed to some of the other vendors and what they could provide and how it was provided and what kind of screen you ended up dealing with. One of the things that I didn't want to repeat is having to go through multiple screens or putting data in multiple times. In fact, to some degree, the software that we currently have is more labor intensive than what we had prior to that point. We were more productive before we got our current software. And I'm not going to make that mistake again. I can assure you that I have done everything possible in conjunction with IS to make sure that we were buying the best piece of software we could for the county that would work for us and on into the future, and have the security that if this vendor doesn't perform or doesn't keep themselves up to date with changes in the software and enhancing it, we'll take our data and go elsewhere.
So in your opinion, spending the extra $24,000 for the initial price, plus an extra amount per year that we really don't know, okay? Is that a good value for the taxpayers from your department?
I think it is. I think it is.
That's all I need to hear. I think we're ready to vote.
Thank you very much. Any other comments on this particular item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. All right. We're done with the consent agenda. Approval of nominations and appointments. Employee Activity Board.
That was
already
approved.
I'm
So
sorry.
you move down to.
Item for, you're right, I lost my place here. Bills for final passage. Carol, would you read the first one, please?
Bill number 4039, an ordinance placing the creation of the Meadowbrook Estates Road Neighborhood Improvement District on the April 8, 2014 ballot.
Any discussion on this item? Roll call vote, please.
An ordinance placing the creation of the Meadowbrook Estates Road Neighborhood Improvement District on the April 8, 2014 ballot. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazil?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Okay, that was the only one for final passage. Next, we have bills for introduction. Carol, if you'll read those, please.
Bill number 4040, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Joe Brazil. An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A agricultural district to RR single family residential district as per application 21275.
I'm sorry.
This is good use of the property, so I have no problem with this.
Okay.
Rezoning change.
Thank you very much.
Bill number 4041, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Mike Elam. An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1A single-family residential district to R1C single-family residential district as per application 21276.
Any questions or comments?
I have no problems with this either. I think this is good use of land.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next one.
Bill number 4042, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Joe Brazil. An ordinance setting final assessments on properties within the Element Oaks Road Neighborhood Improvement District, finding that the Element Oaks Road Neighborhood Improvement District road project is substantially completed, accepting for public maintenance the improvements to Element Oaks Drive, Element Oaks Court, Ellerman Forest Drive, Ellerman Ridge Drive, Bowling Court, and Pleasant Oaks Court, assessing the costs of the project against the properties liable therefore, and providing for the collection of such special assessments.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. Next one.
Bill number 4043, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Mike Elam. An ordinance setting final assessments on properties within the Rose Hill Road Neighborhood Improvement District, finding that the Rose Hill Road Neighborhood Improvement District road project is substantially completed, accepting for public maintenance the improvements to Rose Hill Lane, Rose Hill East Court, and Rose Hill West Court, assessing the costs of the project against the properties liable therefore, and providing for the collection of such special assessments.
Any questions? Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would simply do an addendum to what Mr. Bamer said earlier about roads. The same is true of the bids. You know, you're never going to find everybody in the neighborhood doing the same thing. So at some point, this process, they vote on it based on that. But again, you know, you're never going to get everybody to agree on that anymore than you on road.
Thank you.
Bill number 4044, requested by Craig Kukowski, sponsored by council as a whole. An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute the CMAQ program agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of O'Fallon Road and Budemuth Road, federal project CMAQ 7302656, for the reimbursement of up to 80% of the eligible costs not to exceed a maximum of $181,520.
Seeing no questions, Mr. Welch. Next.
Bill number 4045, requested by Craig Kukowski, sponsored by council as a whole. An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute the CMAQ program agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the upgrade of traffic signals, including new controller assemblies, pedestrian and vehicle detection, and flashing yellow arrows in various locations Federal Project CMAQ 7302658 for the reimbursement of up to 80% of the eligible cost, not to exceed a maximum of $159,720.
Doesn't seem to be any questions. Next one, please.
Bill number 4046, requested by Brent Statler, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance amending section 120.220 ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, to eliminate the requirement that the Board of Equalization mail a copy of the record of all its proceedings to the executive assistant to the county council.
Any questions from the
Is this Brent's bill?
Yeah.
Brent, what's the exact purpose of this? I mean, besides what it says, what is the reason to do this?
The basis of the elimination is due to my knowledge. Just a brief history, I got a call from Joanne and Harold asking why we recommended, I think back in our 2006 audit that we did of the Board of Equalization, that we recommended that the council receive this report from Board of Equalization. At that time we did the review. We noticed that the report was never received by the council, which is required by section 120.220. So prior to 2006, the council never received a report, so we had the recommendation that the BOE should send it to the council. And to my knowledge, and I think to the administration's knowledge, that since we received that report, all it does, we receive it and we put it in the file, and that's the extent of it. So Joanne asked, I guess I stated that I didn't have an objection if the council didn't need the report or wasn't using the report. I'd be fine with not sending the report, since it's also filed with the county registrar's office, so it's accessible to anybody who wants to.
Anybody really want to do what you did?
If I may, Council Chair, so the Board of Equalization meets, and it's all of the records of its actions are kept officially in the registrar's office, available to any sunshine law request as any other meeting of any body, whether it be planning and zoning or Board of Adjustment or anybody else. But there is a requirement right now in the ordinance that in addition to the official record that's kept, that they send you all one, which then your staff puts in a file folder in an office that nobody ever looks at. So when it came up in the audit that they in fact had sent some or all of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it ever was sent.
Then the question was, why are they even being sent? There's no action that you take on them. The records, the official records, are actually held by the registrar. So it's like saying planning and zoning has to send you a copy of their minutes, and Board of Adjustment has to send you a copy of their minutes, and the building commission has to. We don't do that with anybody else. So we intended to eliminate that.
Council members, does anybody feel the need for this report, or Joe?
If I can go a little bit further on this, okay? I believe the charter gives the county council the ability to, citizens' ability to appeal a tax bill. In the last 3 years, we had it happen one time with Delmar Gardens. So having this requirement that all this information goes to these ladies is kind of ridiculous when we only needed it once in the last 3 years. We still have the ability, if we want background information, if somebody appeals the property tax bill, we still have the ability to ask our council staff to go to the registrar and get the information. We just don't need 3 years worth of it transferred over when we only get one case every 3 years. I think, does that pretty well sum it up, if I'm not mistaken? Okay.
Well, the Board of Equalization, they get real busy during tax season, don't they? Aren't they? Isn't that the ones that just got the pay increase?
Right. The Board of Equalization every other year, which is, and the pay increase was only for every other year. It is an incredibly busy body. That didn't come out well. They meet long hours to listen to the appeals of taxpayers, and you know all those records though of every appeal and every decision that they make are kept officially in the registrar's office, whether you get a copy or not. I mean, that's the official record keeper of the county. So it's just a matter. I mean, if you want a copy to come down to you all, if there's some purpose that you all have, or even if you have no purpose but you just want a copy, absolutely, they can continue. But it appeared to be a process of transferring paper that really had no purpose. As Councilman Cronin said, you know, if somebody does use the charter provision to appeal to you all, council staff, pulls whatever there is available to you in order to give you a packet of background information on that request.
But Brent, do you run this board, or is this your?
No. My only involvement was primarily what we did in the 2006 audit. And we had a recommendation that since it was required by this section, they need to submit it. But if we didn't need it, then we could eliminate it if it wasn't deemed necessary, and that's the action we're proposing.
I personally agree with Mr. Cronin when it doesn't seem like we need it. If we can eliminate even a fraction of the paperwork, I think it's a good idea. So, anybody else? Thank you very much. Next bill, please.
Bill number 4047, requested by Michelle McBride, sponsored by Terry Hollander, John White, Joe Brazil, Mike Klinghammer, and Joe Conan. An ordinance authorizing the St. Charles County Collector of Revenue to accept partial payments.
Any discussion on this one? Again, I think Michelle brought forward a good idea. If we can get partial payments, it's better than get part of it as soon as we can.
Bill number 4048, requested by Steve Elman, sponsored by Terry Hollander. An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with the University of Missouri Extension Council of St. Charles County to provide educational programs and services at a cost to the county of $100,000.
Questions? Next one, please.
Bill number 4049, requested by Belinda Little, sponsored by council as a whole. An ordinance amending section 115.320.6 ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCMO.
Anybody? Next one, please.
Bill number 4050, requested by John Grivesu, sponsored by council as a whole. An ordinance approving execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for improvements on Route N, generally from Interstate 64 to Point Prairie Road, with connection to the future David Holko Parkway corridor.
Next one, please.
Bill number 4051, requested by John Grivesu, sponsored by council as a whole. An ordinance approving execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the Gateway Green Light Program for the purpose of providing county-wide high-speed wireless data network needed to communicate with field equipment in remote locations, such as weather, traffic count, and travel time stations, and data communications for emergency responders.
Next one, please.
Bill number 4052, requested by John Grivesu, sponsored by council as a whole. An ordinance approving execution of a supplemental intergovernmental agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for Phase 3, Missouri Route 364.
No comments. Next one.
Bill number 4053, requested by John Grivesu, sponsored by council as a whole. An ordinance approving execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission and the City of Wentzville for improvements on US 61 between Route A and Piney Road.
Okay. That does it for bills for introduction. Next, we have table bills. I know there's no activity tonight, and we do have a work session scheduled for in 2 weeks to talk about the resolution number 1317. So we'll pick that up then.
I made a mention to the former chairman, being that we're not sure we're going to be back in our normal meeting space. I just suggest we might want to move that off to the following month. There's also a lot more EPA information is coming down the pike on that. And also there was a good article in the Wall Street Journal on December 30th about the situation. So I think a little bit of time to delay that work session might be prudent.
Okay. Wait until that first meeting in February then?
Or the second one.
Or the second one, either.
I'm pretty sure. You have any clue when we're going to get into back into our normal digs?
I do not think it will be for the 27th.
And we already are reserved for here.
As to the first meeting in February, it's my hope that we'll be able to tell you a lot more by the end of the week.
I think we'd be fine going this the second meeting in February. Yeah, there's not, but I think that'll be a large attendance for that meeting. So I want to make sure we're going to give you 2 extra weeks and not have to rush.
Thank you, Joe. John, did I say him?
That's just me. And I prefer to wait till then because I won't be at the next council meeting, and I'd really like to hear the information on it.
Mr. Chairman, may I also ask, we had talked back in November, I believe it was, Councilman Cronin had asked for kind of a review of the park system and how they determine what they're focusing in on as improvements, et cetera. We were going to do that at the work session before the last meeting of this month. Would you prefer also if we were back in our regular space and that we could do that on the premises and wait till February for that, or do you want us to go ahead with that?
Well, I'll leave it to the council. I mean, this is a nice room. There's also, do we look at all at having it in the administration building on the first floor of
on 115, 116?
Yeah.
We did. The primary reason was parking. There is some obvious street parking, but I did know at one point the parking across the street would become unavailable.
That's going to happen in March, late March now.
Okay, so we'd be back then.
I personally love this. I think being in the middle of the county is fantastic. For those of us who live on the western side of it, this is great. So
it is a very nice facility.
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
in response to that comment, I would simply remind everybody that the county seat in St. Charles is in the middle of the county. It's halfway between Augusta and West Alton.
There's a whole lot of open ground between here and there.
I would like to mention that there is a nice meeting room in Augusta, too.
The Nomad Council.
While we're discussing, just a couple things. One is, we've got a sheriff's department in the middle of the county, too, if there's a meeting room big enough. And two is, there were a bunch of laptops that were down in the lower level, down in our offices. And I asked the ladies whose they were, and they said they were the administration, because my idea was I wanted to download the charter on it, so I had it for the meetings. But one thing I think, in case this turns out to be an extended stay, if we can fire up those laptops, at least get the packet on them for the meetings. There's a whole lot of information on that electronic packet inside of these blue books we have. An example would be the Wayne Xanth's bid. So I can either that, or I can bring my laptop in. But if anybody thinks that information is important to make a decision, we don't have that currently.
I think for a couple meetings we could suffer through without.
We can definitely do that. The IS department is using this as a nice training opportunity to see how fast they can respond to disaster scenarios. So Simon would love the demand that you provide computer access here for this avenue view for the next council meeting, and that's not a problem at all. There's also wireless here, so if you've got a device.
That's not a problem. I think it's a good idea.
You know, even if we don't have it individually, I mean, I'll bring my laptop and download it ahead of time. If you have the ability to pull up the screen. So like the discussion we were having before about the MyGov versus that, we didn't have that documentation to refresh us.
Just holler at me.
Okay.
Right here.
All right.
Thank you very much. Is there one comment? Yes.
I just wanted to make one final comment and thank Councilman Oliver for doing a fantastic year this past year as chair. I thought he did a great job for the council. I thought he served very well. I thought he ran a very good meeting. So
without a doubt, and I'll say it before someone else does, I know that the first meeting is already exceeded by twofold any meeting that over the last year. So.
That's the difference between a coach who understands clock management and
Well, thank you.
Very well done.
Yes. We mentioned this, or you and I, Joanne, talked quickly before the meeting, but we didn't get a full answer. In regard to Best Bottom Road, Harold, do we see something coming down the pipeline in the near future?
Yes, you do. I would like to have something for your consideration this week.
Oh, cool. Okay, good.
Good. Any other announcements?
I just want to commend the highway department for the great job they did.
Yes.
I only have one small complaint. They plowed my street too fast and ruined my ski hill.
I saw the pictures. All right, if there's no other comments, motion for adjournment?
Second.
Made and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Aye.